everybody, this is Oksana, and today we're going to make this little upside down teardrop pendant. And the way that I came up with this is I was thinking about this piece that I made a few weeks ago, which ironically was based on another piece I made a year ago. And now I'm making yet a third piece, all inspired kind of by the same concept. But for this one, it's a little round stone, and then the one from last year that's similar to this, but it uses round wires, is also a round stone. And I was thinking, what if it was a teardrop? Especially this one had like a little gap here, and I was like, what if it was like the point of the teardrop was coming out of the gap? So I messed around with it and I altered it a little bit here, as you can see, but I did make it with a teardrop, little upside down teardrop. So before we get started making this, I just want to say I hope that if you're not already subscribed, you'll consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell to be notified of new videos, which I make every weekend. Alright, so let's get started making this pendant. So the wire that we're going to be using is 19 gauge square copper wire, which is a little bit thicker and sturdier than 20 gauge. Even though my stone is quite small and I would normally use 21 or 20 gauge with such a small stone, but due to this design, I opted for the sturdier wire, and my stone is about 20 millimeters tall. It's a little teardrop Hypersthene stone. And for the wires, you just need 2 pieces, and they measure 8 inches. And then the other wire that we're going to be using is 24 gauge half round wire, which is a thin little wire, and I got my wires from RioGrande.com. So the first thing you want to do is just find the middle of your 2 wires, just hold them in the middle, and then just grab some of that half round wire and place it the flat side down and the half rounded side up, and we're just going to wrap it around a few times to make the connection so that these wires will stay together. So just 4 little wraps is adequate. And now I'm just going to grab my wire cutters, and then on the same side, so I'm just going to do it here on this side, I'm going to cut both wires. So the wire ends are both together here on this side, and then I'm just going to use my pliers and I'm just going to squish that down. Just kind of bring that together a little bit, and now they're connected. So we actually want this other side facing us. I'm just going to move that a little bit because I felt like that wasn't quite in the middle. All right, and now we're going to try to bend a little curve in it, a curve that will match the top of our teardrop. And if your wires start to kind of not be lined up anymore, you can just use your pliers to try to address that, because you want them to be kind of side by side like this. You don't want them to start and kind of twist or turn. So I'm just getting in here and just kind of pushing on these a little bit because they were starting to kind of turn inwards. All right, so let's see if that little curve would be good for the top of our teardrop. Okay, so that's good. You don't want it to be so wide that the teardrop pops through, but now you do want to bring the wires together. You just want to make a nice little window that your teardrop can't fit through. So now the next thing that you want is you want to bend these wires up, and you want to bend them kind of here on the bottom, so maybe just the little tiny tip of the teardrop is sticking out. So what you can do is just kind of hold with your hand where that would be, and then you can put your pliers there and go ahead and bend. So one thing that can be beneficial to you as you're bending your wires, and actually maybe even before you start to bend them, is to connect them so that they stay together. So you would just take a little piece of the half round wire that we used above and just make a few wraps, just maybe 3 wraps or so. And then trim the little, so that the little wire ends are on the back here. This is our back, and I'm just trying to press down on the little wire ends back here. All right, like that. Now it's kind of hard to see, but there we go. So now we have this little connection, because I noticed that as I was bending, my wires are starting to kind of come apart, and that's fine. You can kind of squish them back together, but I just thought this would be a good step to add that makes things a little easier, so you don't have to worry about keeping the wires together. They'll just naturally stay together. All right, so I'm just gonna do like 3 little wraps here. So I'm just gonna trim that now here on the back. And press down on those little ends of our wire. There we go. And slide that down. You can kind of squish it this way too. So if I grab my stone and I just kind of hold it here how I want it to go, I was noticing that I bent my wires a little bit too low. I kind of want to bend them almost like where these wraps are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide these wraps down just a little bit so they're like on the corner edge there. There we go, like this. Trying to get them nice and even, because if they're even and I'm using them as guidance for making my bend, then my bend will be even. So I'm just gonna hold, actually I'm just gonna straighten this up a little bit first. Kind of unbend it a little bit. All right, and I'm just gonna hold right above that little wrap, and I'm gonna bend to the back. All right, so I think that is going to be better than the way that I had it, which was just too far down. And I do want the tip of the teardrop to just kind of be in there like that. There we go. I think that's better now. So I'm going to get the teardrop out. Actually, sorry, no. Before you take the teardrop out, I just want to push these wires up against the stone, and it depends on the thickness of your stone. That's why let's have the stone in here for this part, just so we can press everything down. Now you can get it out. If it will come out here. There we go. And what I'm gonna do on the back here is these outer wires, we're just gonna go like this. We're gonna push them to the sides. And then these other wires, what we want to do is we want them to come together. So I'm just gonna put like a little bend and kind of bring it towards the middle, and then a little bend and bring it towards the middle. And the goal is to have them come together like this, where they're next to each other, because this is gonna be for our bail. So I'm gonna grab my half round wire again, and I'm gonna start by connecting it. So it's still on the spool. Just gonna connect it a little bit here. So I'm guiding it with my hand, this hand, and then I'm just twisting the piece with the other hand. And then I'm gonna trim this little wire end here, so that when I press down on the wire end, so this is going to be the back of the piece, so if I push the wire end here onto the other side here, then it'll be covered up. You won't see it from the back or the front. So now I'm just going to slide this down . Sorry, I know it's hard to see. I'm just trying to push it down. There we go. So it's down to here. That's where we want it to be. And now we're just gonna continue wrapping for a little bit longer, because we want this to be our veil. All right, so once it is a little bit taller than the top here, just goes a little bit past the top, that should be tall enough. So we're gonna trim it again in such a way so that we can take that wire end and we can just press down on it so that it ends up here on this side. So just go over this whole little bit here with your pliers, just press down on it. So here's what that looks like, and here's what it looks like on this side as well. I'm just gonna center this because it keeps moving around, so I'm just gonna get it nice and centered. And then press down on it really well so it stops moving around. All right, so here's what we have so far. Just gonna grab my stone now, pop it in here, press this all together, and one thing I'm gonna do is see, there's two wires here on the side, so I'm gonna take the outermost wire and I'm just gonna press on it a little bit like this so it kind of grabs the edge of the stone, and you want to do that on both sides. And let's just try to get it in the same location on both sides so it looks even. Oops. It's just gonna end up helping hold your stone. Just gonna push on this a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna do the bail. So for the bail, you can use round nose pliers, or you can just bend it by hand. So these are my round nose pliers, and I'm just gonna get a little curve going here. Like this. And now I'm just going to use my normal pliers. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just gonna hold this because I don't want it to move out of place, but I want to separate. Also, my stone is still not locked in, so it's kind of hard because the stone keeps moving and I don't want it to fall down. So I'm just holding and I'm separating the wires kind of as I hold it. There we go, that's good. And now I'm just gonna put the wires behind these frontmost wires. So just kind of tuck them in the back like that. I'm just gonna push these down a little bit because they're getting in my way. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is these wires are gonna help the stone from kind of sliding up. See how they're kind of going onto the top of our stone here? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a loop like this, and you can use either your round nose pliers or regular pliers to kind of help you. I don't want to lift that loop up too much because I want it to be touching my stone, the top of my stone there. So like that. I'm just gonna do that on the other side. The stone is still not secure, so it kind of moves around. So now I'm just trying to get it to be even with the other side. All right, so from the back it looks even, and from the front, there we go. That looks nice and even. All right, so before I finish that top, I'm gonna work on these wires because they're just kind of getting in my way, and also I want the stone to stop being so wobbly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring these wires from back to front and just make sure that they're even, and make sure there isn't, like this isn't raised, that it's down against the stone. So then here in the front, we're gonna push down on these wires and we're just gonna make like a curve like this. And we're gonna curve them back. And then we're gonna push them to the back again. Here's what that looks like. And now we're gonna trim them, but leave yourself a little end. So I'll show you. So I'm trimming it kind of here. So it's going around the front towards the back, and then kind of here when it comes in contact with this other wire, I'm trimming it. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that little wire end and I'm gonna turn it inwards like this, so it's hidden away. And then same thing here, I'm going to take that little wire end and I'm going to turn it inwards and kind of push it in there so it's hidden away. And from the front, it looks like this. All right, so here's what it looks like from all angles here. So now we can work on finishing up the top. And to do that, just need to cut ourselves 2 little pieces, just a few inches long, of our half round wire. And we're going to use them to make the attachment, because we have to attach these wires here. Alright, so with my first little piece, we're going to work on this side. So I'm just sliding it underneath these 2 wires and then underneath this wire as well. So once you have it about halfway, you can go ahead and use this little wire end and wrap it around just this single wire just up here to connect it. Like that. So I'm just gonna do several wraps, maybe about 4. Alright, so that's 3, so the 4th one, I'm just going to trim and leave a little end. And just kind of follow along and tuck that away. So that's ends up 4 little loops like that. Now we're going to take this and we are going to put it all the way around. Oops, all 3 wires again. Oh, keeps wanting to slide through there. Let's see. It's all right, we'll get it. There we go. Oh, now it's on the other side of that wire. Okay. It's all right, this is good. You can see I struggle too sometimes with these things. Not going well. There we go. So it's underneath all 3 wires now. And I'm just gonna pull on that, and that created 2 little wraps. So now we're just going to wrap it around this single wire to finish it off. Also 4 times. So that's 2 and 3 and 4, and now we can trim it. Just kind of tuck it away. And we're going to trim this wire as well. Alright, I think my wire got a little twisted there, but that's okay. So we're just going to tuck away that little wire end, get rid of that, and now finish off this end. So take a look at your stone, see if it's kind of moving around. Actually, what I want to do is wait to finish this little wire end until I do this side here. Just afraid if I do this end, see how if I push on here, it pushes the stone to this side, and I don't want to do that. I want to finish this side first, and that way everything's just kind of nice and stabilized on both sides there. So let's grab our other little bit of wire and connect this side. So this is going to be the same way that we did the other side. I'm just going to wrap 4 little wraps here around this single wire. So that's 1, 2, 3, and the fourth is going to be this little end that we tuck away. So just tucking away that little end. And now this wire, we're just going to wrap it around one more time, around all 3 of these wires. So that way we have 2 little wraps, just like we do on that side. And now we wrap it around just the single wire here, this wire. So we're going to do that until we have 4 little wraps again. Oops. There we go, and this is going to be the 4th wrap, so I'm just trimming it and just tucking away that little wire end. Oops, I forgot to trim this thicker wire, so we're just going to trim that so it's similar to the other side. All right, now we're going to take a look at our stone. The stone's pretty good, not really sliding around too much. So we're just going to take this little wire end and we are going to turn it because we want to hide the wire end away. We don't want it to be visible. And we're just going to press on it like this, and it kind of makes a loop, and the wire end is kind of hidden in there. And we're going to do the same thing on this other side here, hiding away the wire end. Now we just have these little loops kind of pressing on the top of the stone. So my stone is still, because it's so thin, it kind of moves a little bit in here. Like the edges of it aren't being held very well because it's so thin. So what I need to do in my case to make it more secure is I need to kind of bend this wire here more onto the edge of my stone. I know we kind of bent it before onto the edge, and that might be fine for you and for most stones, but if your stone is very thin like mine, there we go, now it's stable and it doesn't move side to side anymore. So here's what it looks like from the front. And the last step that I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these 2 wires, and this is both kind of for looks but also because I think it just helps keep this together. Like, these are pretty sturdy wires so it doesn't move, but like could theoretically. So I'm gonna try and get these a little closer because I have just a little tiny bead here that I want to add. All right, so I think that's close enough. I think that's good space for the bead. And I'm just gonna take a little piece of half round wire, rounded side facing me. I put this little bend in it because I'm gonna attach it first to one side before I go ahead and put my bead on there. So I'm just gonna try and hold this end here, and the other end I'm just gonna wrap around a few times to connect it. Like this. All right, and now we're just gonna trim it and tuck away that little end. like that, and now you can slide your bead on. It could be whatever bead that you have that you like or that fits that little gap. I just have this tiny little 2mm copper bead, and so that's just what I decided to use. So I'm gonna go ahead and just attach in the same manner to this other side. So I'm just trying to match the other side in terms of how many wraps I do, and then just trimming that and tucking that away, and it's all finished. There we go. Alright, so here's the finished piece, and I have another one here. It's labradorite. It's just the same one. This is the one that I had practiced on before making the video. They look almost identical. And again, here is the back. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.